Hey, so what's up, everyone? It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. I got a little time from having my lunch break that I get to come at y'all and share a little bit of what I'm thinking about or what my mind's been dwelling on over the past couple of days. So, a lot of what's been going on lately is I've been running into a lot of jobs that have deadlines on them. It's not uncommon. Deadlines are a part of everyday life. It's part of living in a time based, sense based universe. So it means that everybody's operating on this idea that there's a specific amount of time set for certain things. My mind tends to see things a bit differently. When it comes to the concept of time, I know a lot of friends and family have heard me go on some rants about it. But to get down to the very basics, I kind of believe that, operating on time tends to put a constraint on what can actually be done, what a person's actually capable of accomplishing. Our mind, our thoughts, everything else, it doesn't really operate on time-based scale. We force it to, and we start to conform to the idea of time being a basis or a standard rule across the board that applies unilaterally. But the problem is that what we do is that we use this concept of time to constrain others to operate in the manner that we best see fit. And then we act and behave accordingly as well to meet the demands that other people place on us based on this construct of time. I think what a lot of I'm running into is I have a passion and drive for the things that I apply my mind and my labor to. And what I'm running into a lot is that I'm having to compromise the quality or the standard or the ultimate result that I'm aiming for when I take on something to meet the demands of this time constraint. And I feel like, society as a whole, we're all making decisions and taking action based upon this ideal of time, and we move accordingly. And so what ends up happening is that how many other things or how many other people are taking shortcuts or are giving subpar work or subpar services just to try to meet deadlines, to try to meet these unrealistic expectations of a time constraint. And the reason why I call them unrealistic is because if it wasn't for being told from birth, or if it wasn't being told throughout our youth um, about the concept of time, we wouldn't operate according to it. I mean, we would understand and we'd comprehend the idea of fleeting moments. We would understand that there's integers or there's moments between the now and the past and the future. And we would be able to distinguish accordingly. But the truth of it all is that what allows us to be able to distinguish the difference between today and yesterday is memory. Memory is actually what serves its purpose to allow us to be able to distinguish the now from the other times without actually applying an hour or a second or a year or a season. These fleeting moments are comprehensible to us according to our ability to memorize something. So when we know that we participated in an event yesterday, we know that we're not still participating in that event based on our memory. If it wasn't for our memory, or if our memory fails us, we really have no judgment or basis to weigh in against to know that we're not still operating in the moment. In fact, from the time that I started this video till now, it's theoretically still the moment. It's the moment contained within the beginning and the end of this video. And so long as the video continues indefinitely, I would go so far as to say that I'm still existing in the moment. Now, at some point, there is going to be an end game or an end point. And when I make those final statements or I conclude the video, that end point will then mark the essence of this video as its one separate thing. And because of that, I'll be able to distinguish that anything I did before or after the video is occurring in a different timeline. And the reason why I would know that is because it's not operating in the video. If you take lifetime and you apply the same concept to a lifetime, I know that there's existence before my lifetime, and I know that there'll be existence after my lifetime based on what reality has proven to me, on what I've observed and what I've been capable of experiencing with others' lifetimes. And because I know this based on observation, my mind tends to lean more towards the direction that a passerby. I'm an observer. You know, I am involved. I am participating, but at the same time, I'm just an observer to somebody else's actions and participation in the universe. And likewise, they are an observer in mine, and they're a passerby in mine. But because of the way that our mind and our ego allows us to only comprehend certain things at certain points as they relate to ourselves, we rarely think or make decisions based upon the way other people are acting or thinking. We make them more along the lines of how we see things. And what I'm noticing a lot in society is that our views, our beliefs, our ideals are usually largely shaped by those who came before us. And unless we actually scrutinize and hold these people who gave these ideals to us before us up against a light and check it, we are no different than civilizations past that followed in the footsteps of their ancestors that may or may not have been making decisions or making operations based on rationale. We tend to want to believe that because we live in a technology-based existence that we are a lot more reasonable, and we have a lot more rationale behind our judgment than what our ancestors may have previously. But that couldn't really be further from the truth. And in fact, civilizations are relative to the occurrences that are going on around them. And so what ends up happening is that as civilizations progress, the experiences that they have also progress, but it's relative. So in a industrial civilization, industrial advancements are just as high advanced as in a technology-based civilization, and their technological advancements apply the same. In direct proportion to the strides made is direct proportion to the decisions made. And so as we make further strides, we make more deeper thought decisions, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're better. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're wiser. It doesn't mean that they're going to be more productive. All it really means is relatively we're making strides. We can gauge where we were and where we're going. Because of the time constraint, we will never really know within our own lifetime unless we see a life-changing event, and every existence has one. We would never really know if that is the event, the foretelling, the Armageddon, whatever it is that different religions and different cultures have marked in the books and the literature as the impending doom or the coming result. We won't really actually comprehend it as such, other than being able to gauge it against other people's experiences. So, for instance, if we were to get blown off the map, it would be very detrimental to us, and many of us scholars and scribes will go back to the books and say, see, this was predicted ages ago. But unless everybody also disappears along with us, the other people that are just observing this having happened to us is just going to say, wow, that was unfortunate. And we've done this same thing. We've sat back in the spectator seats in the peanut gallery and kind of looked outward and said, wow, look at all the devastation and destruction that's going on around us. Yet even as it goes on around us, we're not all calling it impending doom. And then those of us who do, we don't tend to behave as such. Like, I mean, we see it as destruction and devastation is just a daily part of life. And in reality, on a long enough timeline, everybody experiences some type of degree of devastation and destruction. Inevitably, every living thing dies. And because of that, if the timeline is stretched to be all-inclusive, then the beginning of life is no different than the end of life. And from beginning to end, that whole entire experience is still the singular moment. We've just broken it down into individual comprehensible pieces for the mind to comprehend. And so I think the reason why time is such a fleeting construct to me is because I'm being forced to operate within it according to other people's beliefs. So other people put this trust in the time instead of putting trust in the objective. And if people were to realign their perspective or realign their thoughts, at least take a step back long enough to say, why am I trying to force certain things to operate within a certain construct? They would be less likely to have expectations. And the problem with expectations is that sometimes they get out of hand. Expectations can be a setup for failure and disappointment, because setting an expectation is almost as though you're dictating to the universe that if I do X, Y, and Z, I expect Z, Y, and X to come back as a result. Natural law and the natural order of things has proven time and time again that that's not really the way it operates. So really the most that we can ask for is that we put out into the universe what we inevitably believe will eventually return back to us. And that's the most that we can ask for really going in. The most that we can ask for is that if I go out and I put kindness, I put passion, I put dedication into everything that I'm doing, that I would expect that over time the same amount of passion, compassion, dedication will all reflect back towards me. And that's one of the natural laws that has proven time and time again to be true. And on that natural law and that principle alone, if we operated our decisions and our actions based upon that, we'd get a lot further as far as being able to produce things as a civilization than what we can whenever we're operating on an imaginary construct. We all know that the 12 hours on the clock are only symbolic. They represent only fleeting moments, and they represent the amount of duration of moments in between that can occur from sun up to sundown, which kind of is a joke in itself because the sun doesn't actually go up and it doesn't actually go down. And so really we've taken this pie and we've broken it up into sections and subsections, and then we dish it out accordingly. And so now it's a matter of, are we going to realign our perception to be able to reflect accuracy? Or are we going to continue to abide and make decisions based on a fallacy? And as it is right now, the time construct and deadlines and everything else is a fallacy. Job is done when a job's done. Things are complete when they're finally complete. It will be what it will be, and that is exactly what we as humans have to get better at being able to comprehend and understand. Is that everything will be what it will be. We need to let go and just kind of let the things guide the direction that they naturally go in natural order, and get ourselves involved with being able to kind of just ride the waves, ride the vibe, and kind of go where the direction it goes. And if we're going to be key players and if we're going to be key participants, then we would benefit mostly by being able to educate ourselves based on the way the real world operates, and then operate accordingly as well. Right now, I think that a lot of the reason why we have a society full of illness and depression and sickness and mental health is suffering is because we don't operate close to nature at all. We operate everything but, and it gets harder and harder as you distance yourself from the land from which you are a part of, and you try to live this artificial lifestyle. It gets harder to be able to find a center and a balance. And so today, I just want to remind everybody, in spite of deadlines, in spite of timelines, in spite of social constructs, find your center, find your balance, meet in the middle, and take it outward from there. Go out and bless somebody, be a blessing to those that you care about, and hopefully blessings will return. Peace, and thank you for all your love and support. See y'all soon.